Frontiers, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fulgerson.
And I'm Justine Miller, and today we are talking about how each of the cognitive functions presents in each of the positions of the cognitive stack. Today this is Extroverted Intuition in the child position. So that is for the ESFJs and the ESTJs. So if you've been watching this channel and watching all of the series on this, you know that we have so many resources on our channel for you if you are an ESFJ or an ESTJ, or if you're just wanting to learn more about typology. We've also gotten a lot of comments recently about people really not understanding what we're talking about. We have this really awesome playlist I keep linking, but it's the MBTI for beginners. Have some grace on some of the earlier videos because we were learning a lot about this platform, but the content is really good. So please go through all of that if you have questions.
So one thing that we say in the beginning of every single video is that we believe that anyone can be anything. And while that is true, and we stand by that statement, and we wholeheartely believe in it, this particular series that we've been focusing on with the versus series, like comparing the functions, is really focused on giving you guys practical examples and situations and behaviors that are consistent across the board with the types and the functions that we were talking about. However, the biggest takeaway here, the way to understand the functions and the differences in the functions is to really focus on the motivation behind the behavior that we're talking about. So yes, we will give a lot of examples and we will tell you of a lot of consistent behaviors across the board with the types and the functions. It is the motivation that actually makes this function what it is.
Also, there's an ideal type average, ideal not meaning perfect, ideal meaning idealized. So they chop off the examples on either ends of the extreme and they look in the middle. And this is called type development, which is a series in the future. Watch out for that. So ideal type average means that if you are older, you may not relate to all of this because you already covered it. If you are younger, you may not yet have encountered this. Or if you are somewhere in the middle, you may be completely blind to this issue. But the majority of you should be able to latch on to something about this because it is the way that it presents in most people, as long as something didn't come along to knock you off your type development path. So Amanda likes to remind you that anybody can be anything and that is accurate. So behaviors can be attributed to very many aspects. So that's what she was talking about with the motivation. So the child function is a function that our ego, which is the top 4 functions in our stack, go watch the video, What is the Cognitive Stack, please. Our ego has a tendency to protect this function because it is the same attitude that we are. So ESTJs and ESFJs are extroverts, which means they like to be extroverted. But their lead functions are judging functions. So that means they like to do a lot of action. So when they are taking in information, they would prefer to take in information in the moment. However, to be a balanced person, they need an introverted perceiving function, which is introverted sensing. What they like to do is ignore that function and jump down into their child because they want to stay extroverted. However, because it is their third function, it's one that they don't have it can be very childlike. The most common trait of the child function is its volatility, how it can be very playful and happy one moment and then very upset and throwing a tantrum the next. It's the function that you seem to jump around all over the place with. So extroverted intuition is when you are perceiving the world through not what it is, but what it could be. You're looking at possibilities. You like to play with ideas. Often, you are super removed from the real world. If there is nothing interesting in the room, you will pick an object and you'll make up an idea and you'll run with it. You'll pick an idea and you like to play with it. Now I'm pointing at her because she is an extroverted intuitive dominant. In the child position, however, it has a lot less nuance. So for an ESFJ and an ESTJ, the way that this most commonly presents is time. If they are too extroverted, for extroverted intuitives, and Amanda can attest to this,
so much.
Time is weird, right?
Yeah, time just doesn't, I don't know. 5 minutes can feel like 5 years, and 5 years can feel like 2 months, and it's just nothing ever, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
No, and don't ever ask an extrovert intuitive to give you a time estimate on how long something's going to take because they're going to lie.
Oh, yeah.
Not even intentionally.
I was about to say, I will give you an answer, but it will be wrong. And if it happens to be right, that's a coincidence.
She got lucky.
I got super lucky. I was not planning. No.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really bad. And it's so funny that it's hilarious to her because she's an introverted intuitive and she's also bad at time.
I am bad at time, but I am not as bad as you are.
It's so sad.
If for no other reason than my SE inferior is like determined to get things done. Okay, off topic. Sorry guys. Okay, so extroverted intuition and the child function, it can make them a little bit bad with time and with possibilities. So what they will tend to do is an ESTJ or an ESFJ will give a time estimate of how long something will take. And because extroverted intuition is also about possibilities, they may think that they have more time than they actually do. So time seems like it's stretched to them if they're leaning into this function. So what they have to do in that instance is really lean into their parent function, their introverted sensing parent function, because it yanks them up by the ear and it keeps that child in check, and then they can actually bring forth their plans into reality. Something else that the extroverted intuitive child can do is it can make them, so ESTJs and ESFJs both have this reputation for being kind of strict, specifically ESTJs. They're very like by the book. But something I've noticed, especially the ones who are like in early college age, for some reason that this is like when their extroverted intuitive child like comes out to play, and they like to be they can be really goofy all of a sudden, or have like this kind of quirky sense of humor. The reason that is happening is because they are playing with possibilities. So sometimes they will say something just to see what the reaction will be, so that they can play with the idea or they can play with the response. So if they're really leaning into that child function, they'll be like, let me propose or set up or create this crazy situation just to see what happens.
What everyone's going to respond like, or what's going to happen, or is someone going to take it and run with it, or...
Because they're trying to be playful. They want to be in the moment. They can also get really defensive though. So like if they are playing with ideas and somebody else comes across and kind of picks it apart or lays it to waste and is like, this is stupid, this isn't practical, that's never going to happen, it can kind of hurt the child function. And so like, whereas in any dominant that might hurt their feelings, maybe not, they could just like ignore you, never talk to you about it again. A person within any child, if they were talking just to talk, if they were playing with ideas just to play, and you come and you kind of lay it to waste, that tends to affect them a lot deeper. They will have a lot stronger emotional response than an ENFP or an ENTP typically would, because that's their child function that you just crushed.
So like a child, it's going to end up throwing
a temper tantrum.
Yes, it's going to appear like anger, and it's going to appear very defensive, almost like they want to defend the crazy idea they threw out there, even though they didn't even, they weren't even really attached to it. But now that you've attacked it, now I'm going to go ahead and fight you on it.
That's exactly correct. So some of the struggles with the extroverted intuitive child, in addition to what was already mentioned, is as with all child functions, we have a tendency, and this is unconscious. This is going around in the background. You may not even realize you are doing it, but if you start really looking, once you really understand the system and the language that we use, you will catch yourself doing it, because I do it. Amanda and I both had really shocking realizations that we were projecting our child function onto others. And this can also help you figure out your type if you're not sure. Or
specifically, we were projecting this onto our parents, onto our fathers.
Yeah. I love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad.
But if you are struggling with your type, this is another way you can figure it out, is who do you see, what types do you tend to see as childish? Because what our minds have a tendency to do is, because we have this function that we see as childlike in ourselves, and we recognize it as a child function. And again, you don't even have to have the language to do this. This happens behind the screen of most people all the time anyway. And then they see that in somebody else. They acknowledge it. So for me, I have extroverted intuition. So let's just stay on that track. Sorry. So for ESFJs and ESTJs, they have extroverted intuition as their child function. And even if they don't know that it's called extroverted intuition, when they see somebody else playing with ideas, but that's what they do all of the time, they're going to associate that person with that child in themselves and automatically assume that person is childish. So ESFJs and ESTJs see ENFPs and ENTPs as child ish. They see them as childlike. They see them as somebody they want to nurture, or they see them as somebody who's very immature. They see them in a certain way because of that child function. And this is a natural bent that we all have with our child function.
Like, you don't need to know anything about MBTI. You don't need to know anything about types or anything like that, because regardless if you know about it or not, or acknowledge it or not, it's happening. So that's what we believe. So again, you don't have to know any of this, but if you ever wanted to go around and type some people who are close to you, or type some maybe negative situations you've been in the past or something, you may come to find that the people that you maybe tend to annoy you a lot, or you tend to look at them like you really cannot adult, or you cannot handle the situation or anything like that. They may be an any dom.
Growth for tertiary extroverted intuition. Amanda?
Don't skip SI. SI is what's going to ground you. Your introverted sensing parent is what is going to ground you into reality. I will say, though, that I'm thinking on the, I have two girls, moms, who are fairly close to me, who are ESTJs. And I feel like their NE has been so picked apart because of the company that they keep. So, like, when they throw out those ideas, those random ideas they want to play with, I get along with them really well because we get to play together, with those ideas. But in the careers that these two women have chose, which they are very, very, very good at, NE doesn't play well in those particular careers. And so I know that their NE has been squashed and poked holes in and all that. And so I've seen, like, I can look back on the past and where they are now and kind of see their NE dying a little bit. So also don't let that happen. So, like, yes, well, you want to lean into your parent and you want that SI to, like, don't ignore it when it's trying to pull you up. Don't ignore that compulsion, but also keep fighting for your NE. Don't let people squash it, because there's so many good ideas that can come from it. And there's such a unique perspective that you could have that other people might not be able to see right away, that you guys can. So even when people are trying to poke holes in everything, try not to take it too personally and don't get too defensive about it. If you can recognize it in yourself, you can understand maybe why people would do that. So yeah, don't skip your SI, but also don't let your NE die.
Because being human is hard.
Hopefully this makes it just a little bit easier.
Thank you for watching our video.
Please comment, like, subscribe, and share. And we are on Facebook.
Share, guys.
Share. That's really the biggest thing in the world. Like, share this video, share the other videos. Anything that you relate to, just share it with your friends and family on Facebook, Instagram, any of the platforms that you're on. We are also on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, and Discord, as well as YouTube, obviously. If this is your very first time watching TCH, then thank you and welcome. Please go watch our very first video called Welcome to Typecast Heroes, and you can learn all about our project, all about TCH, where we've been, who we are, where we're going, and just kind of what our plans are and why we're doing this. So there's a big project happening, and we need more people to interview. So
ESFJs, ESTJs, come on now.
Yes. ES types, all of you, just come,
get here.
Come
what are you
forth.
doing?
Yes. And again, just leave a comment below or message us on any of those platforms, and Jesse will hook you up with an interview. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.